how y'all doing? This is Mungo Slade, and today we're going to talk about stop and start pushes. This is something that we talk a lot about on the internet. So today I'm going to talk about Dana Brooke. She's going to talk about start and stop pushes, about her personally as a performer. But then I'm going to talk about how they used to get around these things. So let's talk about this stuff right now. So Dana Brooke is on Chase and Glory, which is Lillian Garcia's podcast, and this is what she has to say about start and stop pushes. She says, "It makes me emotional because I know I can do this. I hate the start stop. I hate it because it makes me excited. What am I excited for if it's always going to start and stop? Why can't I go and run with something? Why can't I go and show the world and show people backstage that I can do this? It always starts out, oh, you want to do this Titus Worldwide and be the statistician? Okay, I never complain or ask for things. I always do what is asked of me, thinking it will get somewhere. Then it's like, no, going out there and cutting a heartfelt promo to the fans with Ronda Rousey, it was everything and a great opportunity. Then I was injured and not able to perform and carry that story anymore, sitting on the sidelines and being like maybe some other time will come. I'm such a team player and WWE girl that anything I do, I try to do things and talk about how good the company is. It is, in general, and I'm always trying to put WWE on a platform, but what am I getting from it? I'm trying to be the best possible person I can be, but there's nothing behind it to drive me to the next point. I try not to get my hopes up." Okay, so this is, courtesy of Fightful.com. This is actually very interesting because we know that the start and stop pushes has been disastrous over the last couple of years. I believe I said it on Twitter that Angel Garza should have been a star by now. You had Angel Garza was lighting up NXT. He wasn't even on NXT that long. If you remember correctly, he won Cruiserweight title almost immediately. And he was, a favorite among the audience. There was a lot of people who really liked Angel Garza, especially when it came to, his interactions with the fans and especially the female fans. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. And then they just kind of, they teamed him up with Zelina Vega and Andrade. And that seemed like it was going to have some legs to it. Then they cut the legs right up under him. They didn't do anything. They just got beat up by Drew McIntyre every week. Now, there's 100 stories like that we can go through. Aleister Black, just recently, he lost his eye. He went away for a little while. Got the eye patch. He was supposed to come back as a killer. He lost his first feud back, and then he's been off TV because his wife got fired. So the start and stop push has been horrible for WWE. Now, they used to get around this stuff because things were taped, which means you would tape things in advance. So this was the positive thing about taping shows. There was no changing it on the fly. When you decided what the creative was, you taped 2-3 weeks ahead, and you had whatever you was going to do. It was in the can. You couldn't change it. You couldn't go back and change it. Now you could cut it out, but you couldn't go back and change it. You couldn't drop the storyline in a month. You couldn't drop the storyline in 2 weeks. You had to go forward with it. You didn't have a choice, good or bad. You had to let it go forward. Just imagine the stuff they probably would have dropped if, during the era of taped Raws. Like, they probably would have dropped, some pretty interesting storylines that we remember as kids. They probably would have been like, yeah, we're going to go a different way. For no reason. And just take both guys off TV for no reason. Like, that sort of stuff is disastrous. It's disastrous to the audience, too, because the audience does not attach themselves if they don't believe in the person's push. If you don't believe that the push is real, if you think the push is going to go away, if you think it doesn't matter in 2 weeks, then there's no point in attaching yourself to it. That's actually a huge part of the problem. There's no commitment and there's no consistency. Commitment and consistency are two things. If you're going to do something, there needs to be a fucking good reason for it. Somebody needs to be injured. Somebody needs to be dead. Or, something like you fired the person who was writing the story and you don't know how it was supposed to finish. Or something like that. This idea that we just start 100 storylines and then only 3 of them ever see fruition is bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. I respect Dana Brooke for being on a WWE platform and saying that. I respect that. That's good. And considering they about to do the same thing to Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke right now, because they had this storyline where they were going to be the tag team champions, or at least they were looking like they were going to be the tag team champions, and then Mandy Rose got hurt, and then they took him off TV. Then she had that short storyline with Mia Yim, and they stopped that out of nowhere because Mandy Rose was coming back. Now they got back and they lost the first match back. So it's like you can't get invested. You can't commit when you can't commit from the perspective of the fan. If there's no commitment from the company in this particular person, like imagine, Vince probably could have saved himself some money, committing so much time and energy to Lex Luger. When he was doing the Lex Express, he could have saved himself some bucks. But, it was a taped show. So he went with it. He went with what he had. He's like, hey, this is the plan. We're going to go through with the plan. He went, and of course he changed the plan at the end because, Jim Cornette and various other people have said that Luger was supposed to win the title at WrestleMania 10. And then Vince was like, went another direction with it. But he went through with the push. He went through with the push from June to April. Even Cole winning the Royal Rumble and all that type of stuff. But you can't have this stuff as a regular occurrence. This is an every year thing. It is frustrating. It got to be. It's frustrating from somebody watching the show because you like, okay, I like this guy. Where did he go? Why he hasn't been on TV for 3 weeks? Is he hurt? If he's hurt, at least tell me he's hurt. At least have the other person in the story continue the story if the person is hurt. But there's nothing. It's just gone. Everybody leaves. Everyone leaves. Nobody says anything. Like there was another story that happened recently where people like, where did the Mysterios go? Like they just left. Like, is Mysterio still in a storyline with King Corbin? I don't know. They seem to be gone. I don't know. Where did they go? It's like, what happened to the storyline with the Lucha House Party? They decided to break them up out of nowhere. It's like they do stuff like this where you do kind of like, okay, that could be interesting. That could be interesting. Let's see where this goes. And then it goes nowhere because 2 weeks later, nobody remembers that it happened. That is very frustrating. And I respect Dana Brooke for saying something about it. Even though some people don't like Dana Brooke, and I'm kind of on the fence, where she's not somebody I dislike, but she's not somebody I like. She's just kind of like a body who's there, but she's been there a long time. I think Dana Brooke's been there about 5 years, maybe 6. So she's been there a long time. She got some tenure in the building, and tenure in the place, some equity, And I'm not saying she should be the champion or anything, or that anybody should be. I'm saying that when you create a storyline, commit to the damn storyline. And look, as a writer, I understand. Sometimes when you start writing a story, you have a different finish in your head than the one that starts. And sometimes when I write a story, I don't finish it. I have several unfinished books on my hard drive. You get very excited about something else and you jump to that thing. But that's why it's just me when it comes to that. You have a team of fucking writers. There has to be somebody who would be like, okay, you're very excited about this new toy that you have. You picked up this new NXT guy or this legend is coming back. You excited about that, Vince? Okay, cool. We'll finish up this storyline here while you do that. Like, why can't that be the case? Like, nobody can write my stories for me because they don't know how I planned it in my head. Like nobody knows like what angles that I wanted to take, what the endings of the stories that I wanted to be. Nobody can write them for me because I got excited and jumped to something else. But it happens. So it's not just, well, they're shitty. It's like sometimes people get excited about other things. Like I was just jotting down plots for a story right now. I've been working on a short story, and the novel that I was writing a novel on my phone. And then I just kind of was like, hey, I got an idea for something else. And then I just started doing something else. It's like that stuff happens. You get distracted when you're like in a creative mode. Like sometimes you're just talking and you get distracted and you start talking about different things. That's just the nature of being in the creative field, is that sometimes you do get inspired to do something else. You have a different idea, but you need to come up with a plan, and it needs to be some commitment to the plan. And I think this has been the good stuff about Smackdown, because Smackdown has committed to most of the storylines that they've had. There are some storylines where they just kind of poof and they disappeared, or the guys have disappeared and you're like, where did they go? But Raw, all the time. My God, all the time. Stories just vanish. Like what happened to the Cedric Alexander and Ricochet storyline? Poof. Just poof. Just gone. But you know, that's just me, man. Like I understand how it can be very frustrating from the perspective of the performer and from the audience. We need some commitment and we need some consistency, and that's really why you're talking about lead writer. You need to not write something every week. You know, just come up with your overall game plan. What is the finish? When is this going to be finished? Is it going to finish on TV? Is it going to finish on pay-per-view? Regardless of how it's going to finish, and then you just go from there. Okay, you come up with your dialogue and your situations weekly, but your plan should always be, okay, we're going to go through with this until TLC. This is the end game. We're going to go from here to here, from Rumble to February to this to that, something like that. And now overall, of course, you should write from WrestleMania to WrestleMania, but you can't really do that anymore because you are calling people up from NXT, and then when they try to plan things ahead of time, then people get to complaining because, oh, you're sticking to this stupid plan of yours. You know, like the Daniel Bryan storyline, which kind of interrupted the Batista-Randy Orton match that they wanted to have, that they planned and told Dave Batista was going to be the match, and then they ended up having to change it. The Ronda Rousey-Charlotte match, which they gave Asuka her first loss to validate Charlotte, and then halfway through the fucking storyline, Becky Lynch becomes one of the biggest stars in the business, and she has to main event WrestleMania. Like, that stuff happens. So that stuff can prevent from you from working, you know, WrestleMania to WrestleMania. But you can do month to month. The only thing that should be able to stop you is injury. You know, you can do month to month. You can do week to week until you get to that point. You should have a general idea of what you want, and then be able to tell the talent this is what you're going to do. Because now they can come up with plans, and they can say, well, I'm thinking about this, or we could do this, or yada, 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 and get them jazzed up. But I understand also that there are so many of them that you do get excited about other things. But you have to either shrink the writing team, go back to taping it, make some type of verbal or written commitment. But something needs to change because the start and stop pushes does fucking suck. It does suck. That inconsistency sucks. But thank you guys for listening. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Send me money if you can, and I'll talk to you guys later.